Hey, where are we? Yes, it's time for some Type 40, extra Type 40 here, exclusively on the Space Book channel. With me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Welcome back to the channel. Type 40 Extra is a before show, it's an after show, and an in-between show where we scroll the view screen, the Whooniverse, the entire Whooniverse, to clock the fixed points and the not so fixed points across all of space and time. This time I've got Max with me. We're going to get stuck into a couple of Doctor Who topics around one particular figure in Doctor Who history. But before we get there, Max, I wanted to know if have you seen this before? So this, I don't know if you're a traveling man. Do you travel much?
No, I live in my little room. I've never seen this before. No, it's quite cool though.
Yeah, these are real life police boxes. So this photo comes courtesy of a friend of the show, Kenny Smith. And on his travels, he's always walking around Glasgow in Scotland, where he lives. And they're lucky enough up there in Glasgow, Max, to have real life police boxes still out there in the wild.
That is baffling. Can you actually go inside?
I don't think you can. Some of them, I think, are in use as cafeterias and vape shops and all that kind of thing. But a great many of them, I think, are sort of boarded up, just in case people sort of try and doss down in them. Or
yeah. I've never seen a police box before. I did see the TARDIS once, though. I went to see.
Where was that?
It was in Bristol, where the Shooter Gatwell was filming him just walking out the TARDIS. It was really, really cool seeing it. I think he's going to be a great Doctor. He had a real doctory walk about him.
Oh, really? So you went down there? You went down there to the filming of Series 14?
Yeah, so I've seen quite a bit of filming. I saw the 60th anniversary where all the crowd are going wild and David Tennant's there with Neil Patrick Harris. I saw obviously the Shooter Gatwell walking out the TARDIS, and also I shouldn't have done this, but they were filming in Newport. That's it there. Yeah, they were filming in Newport, and I just walked onto the set like I owned the place, and no one questioned me. I got to look at everything. I saw like the camera angles. I saw what's her name. Ruby Sunday's character, I forgot what her name was.
Millie Gibson,
walking around. Yeah, Millie Gibson. If I wanted to, I could have just taken a snack. It was all lying there. But yeah, it was really, really cool seeing all the stuff.
So even though Doctor Who is sort of going next level with this new production, it sounds like some things with the BBC never change, and you can just sort of stroll around and
yeah. I'm sure for most sets you could just invest in a land yard and a high vis, and you'd get in it, no problems at all. But
I think the Doctor said that once in an episode where they went around Windsor Castle. If you walk around and look like you own the place, you can probably get away with most things.
Yeah, definitely.
That is very impressive. I've often wondered who does this, who travels the length and breadth of the country to track the production team down as to what they're doing and where they're doing it. And it's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, obviously, it's a very exciting time for Doctor Who at the moment. Certainly on-screen Doctor Who with one brand new Doctor this year. So it's the era of the 14th Doctor at present. But we've got another one waiting to come out of the trap. Well, it's a very, very strange time in Doctor Who history, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I knew David Tennant was coming back because of leaks, but I was still so surprised when it actually happened. It's awesome, I think. Yeah.
And how do you feel about Shooter then? Having seen him run around, have you got a good feeling about him, or what are your inclinations there? What do you think?
I have a feeling that Shooter Gatwell is going to be amazing as the Doctor. The only problem I'm scared of, that I'm worried about, is Russell T Davies going to go so kind of woke with it and have him. Yeah. We don't want that from series 12 and 11 where it was just the Doctor giving lectures instead of going on actual adventures. But I think I have a feeling that it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I do have faith. I've said this on several shows. I've deliberately avoided seeing Shooty in anything else, so it'll all be completely fresh to me. So I think that could be a good strategy for me personally going forward. I've never seen Sex Education or any of that stuff.
Yeah, neither have I.
It'll all be box fresh. So that's just one of many questions surrounding Doctor Who that are hanging in the air at the moment. But there's something that's been out there for a little while, and something that we've joked about on Type 40 Live, the various conversations that we've had. This time last year, it seemed very, very unlikely. That's quite a short period of time in TV productions terms, when The Time Traveller's Wife began what looked to be a long run on HBO, but that didn't happen in the end. It all came crashing down around the years. It was cancelled after one season. But this particular person, he also has a play in the West End, and he has got another hit show under his belt in the last year, Inside Man, with David Tennant. So generally speaking, I get the impression that Steven Moffat is somebody who keeps himself pretty busy. And we've just talked about the fact that Doctor Who Series 14 is deep into filming now. There's going to be 8 episodes of that season. We have seen every week we get told about some new guest star with this show. I don't know if you noticed this, Max. Every single guest star is the biggest thing that's ever hit the show until the next one that they announce, and then it's the same all over again. It's probably good to take a lot of that with a pinch of salt. But we know a fair amount now about what's coming on screen, but very little about what's going on off screen. And yeah, there's 8 episodes, and we only know the identity of one writer. That's Russell T Davies. But could fellow former showrunner and the man who's written more Doctor Who than anyone else, Steven Moffat, could he secretly be one of them? Is he on that writing staff for Series 14? Have you heard the dialogue around this so far?
Yeah, I have.
What do you think?
If it's true, I would love it so much, because, you know, Steven Moffat, especially in Russell's first era, I think his stories were the best stories. He had everything. When he focused on one episode, it was always the best episode of the series. So I would love it if it was true, and I think it is true.
You think it? That's a very firm.
Oh yeah. I talk confidently, but I might be waffling. But
not at all. I like the conviction. So, what makes you so certain? Because obviously they're telling us so little, and Steven Moffat was there for a very, very long time. There's still, even though he's had a bit of a flop with The Time Traveller's Wife, it's clear that he's not short of offers. So, what convinces you?
Well, he addressed the rumours online. I can't remember which platform, but he basically said, if I go back to Doctor Who, it'll be career suicide, especially if I go under Russell T Davies. And I feel like that's him just teasing us and being really sarcastic. So I think that's something Moffat would do. I think he would go back.
It is something that Moffat would do, isn't it? Should we hear what he's got to say from his own lips?
Yes.
I think this could be exactly what you're talking about.
You mentioned it might be a bit too recent for you to come back as a showrunner, but potentially as a writer. I know you and Russell are very close, and you've written some incredible episodes.
I think it would be a bit, I mean, career madness, even by my standards, to go back into a junior capacity on a show I used to run. I would have to be insane to do that.
Yeah, so
that's definitely what I was referencing. Yeah,
I think
he's coming back.
I think you're right. I think Steven Moffat, obviously, I mentioned that he's written more Doctor Who than anybody else. And with a writer like Steven Moffat, when you've watched, or more to the point, listened to enough of their content and heard their voice enough, you start to know how they talk, how they communicate, more to the point, and what their sense of humor is. And I think that self-deprecation there from Steven Moffat, having seen enough interviews with him, that is what he's pointing towards. I think you're right. But obviously, Steven Moffat, this is a guy, he's 61 years old. And he's at a point in his life, he's a screenwriter, producer. He wrote the screenplay for the Tintin movie, the Steven Spielberg movie. And I would imagine, as I say, there's lots of offers coming his way. But there was a playful look in his eye there. I think he probably knew the question that he was going to be asked and had that answer prepared.
Yeah, and also him and Russell T Davies, I'm fairly sure they're really, really close friends. And seeing as, Russell's bringing back everybody from his past era, I wouldn't be surprised if Russell asked Moffat, and Moffat loves Doctor Who, so I would be very, very surprised if he also says no. Yeah.
So given the fact that Steven Moffat could indeed be filling one of those slots, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Russell will be writing at least 2 of those episodes himself. I would expect that episode 1 and the finale.
Yeah.
That could be, so there could be 6. That's a push, 6 slots to fill. What do you think Russell should be looking to do? Sort of a combination of different sort of talents, Where should he be looking? Because this is a very it's almost like a make or break time for Doctor Who, isn't it? They've got to get this absolutely right. And my view is that every single one of those episodes has to count. There can't be any duds.
Yeah, well, Doctor Who's kind of known for being quite hit or miss, and with only 8 episodes, I think they do all have to be really, really good. Especially seeing as we're at a time where so many people don't want to watch it, and this is the first time in a while where I'm expecting a lot of new viewers to come on. So I think every episode has to be pretty good at least.
It is the case that Steven Moffat, as you said earlier on, he's got a lot of hits under his belt, and a lot of people feel just as you do that he had his biggest successes. Ironically, for a man who spent such a long time showrunning the program himself, that he had most of his biggest successes under Russell T Davies. I mean, River Song, obviously an icon in her own right. I know there are people out there that hate this character, but she did make a huge impact and was a massive part of the success of breaking Doctor Who in America when it first dropped on Netflix about 12 years ago now, wasn't it, during the Matt Smith era? So that was huge. And of course, the Weeping Angels are probably the only Doctor Who villain of the entire new series that has entered that sort of pantheon of all-time greats, aren't they? So it will be a tough act to follow. People could be looking to Steven Moffat and say, can you possibly top that? Can you have any better ideas? But I suppose this is a man who has been writing for a very long time. He showrun his first show in the mid-late 80s. That was Press Gang on ITV. And a lot of writers talk like this, don't they, Max? That they as they get older, their experiences channel into their work, and they're never short of new ideas. Because Russell himself said he'd never go back to it. But he has, and he's since spoken about how he couldn't leave the show alone, it couldn't leave him alone. There's no reason why that should be any different for Steven Moffat, is there?
No, not at all. I mean, he's gonna lie. I'm after seeing that clip again, I'm very confident he's back. And also, he's got older now, and I think he's gonna have so many more ideas like Russell T Davies. And if he puts his all in that one idea, because there's only 6 slots to fill, I'm guessing he's gonna get 1 episode or 2, a 2-parter. And if he puts his all into that, I think it could be one of the best of all time with how it's looking.
So you grew up with the Steven Moffat era of Doctor Who, didn't you?
I think mainly, yeah, but I kind of started, I would say, series 2 since I was very young, maybe even series 1. I don't even know if that's possible, but I have memories of series 1, but I would have been 1 at the time, so I don't know. The timeline doesn't make any sense. But yeah, Steven Moffat's Doctor with the 11th was my Doctor, my favourite one.
And he cast 2 doctors himself, didn't he? And both of his doctors, I think, he's maintained quite close friendships with all of them. They're very supportive of one another, aren't they? So when plays open, there they are. Steven Moffat goes to see Peter Capaldi in his play, and vice versa. And even though I gather that relationships were strained for a while between him and Matt Smith, it does seem that they are very much on good terms again now, and speak about each other with in glowing terms, don't they? If you've ever heard them. So I think there's enough distance now between the series for everybody involved to potentially come back. I mean, we've been speaking for a while about could Smith or Capaldi be coming back for the 60th anniversary, in secret, because we still don't know the answer to that, do we?
No. Yeah. Well, do you know what happened between Moffat and Matt Smith? I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it was. They had a series of disagreements. I think it was during the production of series what we call series 7B. So those were the episodes that were broadcast in early 2013, and Smith was a little frustrated with some of the scripts, I think, and I think he felt that some of them needed some work. There was a blow up on the set of one particular episode, allegedly, where they had a major disagreement. So yeah, it was it all reached to a head at a time where Matt Smith's contract, it got to the point where his contract was up. And obviously the last 2 or 3 years had been huge for Smith, and his agent, quite understandably, this is what agents do, was angling for more money, for a better situation for him at a time where, I suppose, when the show had broken on Netflix, exposure for an actor of his age, Smith was getting other offers. If you remember, there was a film with Ryan Gosling that Smith made in between Series 7 and the 50th anniversary special. So offers were coming in. Obviously, the financial incentive there for his agent was to get him more work, to get him onto the projects that were going to pay Smith more, which meant that the agent's cut would be more too. So I gather that quite a pressure cooker situation built up, not just between Smith and Moffat personally, but around the whole production, around negotiations allegedly between the agent and the BBC to return Smith to the role. In fact, by the time the 50th anniversary special that was gearing up to go in, it is true that Steven Moffat only had one actor locked down and in contract, and that was Jenna Coleman. Everybody else, including Matt Smith, had to renegotiate. So it was a very, very, very tense time for Steven Moffat back then, and not the only tense time that he had making that show. I mean, the entire time that he was putting those episodes together, Max, he was also show running and writing the hugely successful series Sherlock.
Oh yeah, well, that I've never heard of that drama between those two before, but I'm not surprised because Series 7B wasn't very good, was it? I mean, especially, it was all right. It was watchable episodes, but they weren't that great.
There is a belief among fandom that Moffat may have spread himself a little too thinly between Sherlock and Doctor Who at that time. Yeah,
well, that's kind of what I've been saying as well. With what I've been talking about with if he puts his 100% thoughts into the new story that he might be writing for Series 14, that's why I think it'll be so good, because when he's showrunner, sometimes he has to spread out his work and work on different stories, and I think he's much better when he writes for one story.
Oh, I think you're right, and I suppose the more pairs of eyes on a script, he wouldn't just be working under Russell T Davies, he'd be working with him. I think that's the way that Russell views his relationships with all his writers. Even then, we've heard him talk quite recently about how he mentors young writers, and he's brought on Scott Hancock as a script editor, isn't he, who's done such great work with Big Finish. So I do get the impression that it's a group of people that work together rather than a pecking order, and that anything that Moffat may have come up with, that it will be something not exactly of a group effort, but they will all work together to get the best results. I mean, for me, the Moffat era, he obviously made a huge contribution to the show, and it had some peaks, it had some valleys. There's no way of getting around that. But from what I know of writers that I speak to, anybody who understands a character on the level that Steven Moffat understands the Doctor, and who values and respects the brand itself, somebody who's connected to it on that level, it's never really going to leave them. And it's been 7 years, Max. It's long enough for somebody to go away. He's not been idle in that time. He's not left his tools to Blunton. He's continued writing, continued running shows, which to me it means it's more likely that he could come back to the show with being as a better writer even, and with some ideas that might have been banking up in the meantime.
I think so, because it has been 7 years after all, and he's probably just dreaming and thinking about future Doctor Who ideas that he's not been able to make. I'm sure he's got loads of stories in his mind that he hasn't been able to tell since he left the show. I think it'll be great if he returned.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly turn my phone notifications off. Didn't realise that.
Steven Moffat has been a major creative force in British television over the last 3 decades. These are just some of the shows that he's been involved in. So there's Press Gang, which ran for, I think it was 6 seasons on children's ITV from the late 80s to the early 90s. And the sitcom Coupling too, that ran for 5 seasons on BBC Two. And they did try to get that to stick in America too. It didn't quite work out that way, did it? The global hit that was Sherlock with Martin Freeman made a star, undoubtedly, of Benedict Cumberbatch, and The Time Traveller's Wife there, of course, last year's. Yeah, probably the major flop of his creative career so far at HBO. Very surprised that didn't go the distance there, but they can't all be winners, I suppose. And Steven Moffat was never going to stay out of big telly for for too long. He's often giving interviews, and he spoke to the Oxford Students' Union as well. So this is a man who, at this point in his career, is still very, very respected and decorated too. So he, during the time where he was running Doctor Who, he won 3 Hugo Awards, a BAFTA Craft Award, and a BAFTA Cymru Award. And so I think that people can say what they like about Steven Moffat, because some people are very, very vocal about his work, Max. Because I suppose, familiarity does breed a sort of contempt. And what I say about the Doctor Who showrunner's job is that it's a job that most of us think that we could do, and people tend to get hounded out of the job by some sections of fandom. It's a bit like the England football team manager's job in that respect. We all think we could do a better job, because it is that make or break time. Doctor Who has been a world-class show before, hasn't it? But this time, with Disney Plus being its international streaming platform home for the rest of the world, they need to get all eyes on the show again, don't they? And so to have the very best talent available too, not just exciting talent on screen, but to have the best possible writing talent there, powering it through. And nobody understands this show more than Steven Moffat, I think. So I think you're probably right. I think this is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, Steven Moffat is so underrated as a showrunner too, because we know Russell T Davies, his first era was so good, and I think Steven Moffat's was definitely a bit worse, but it was still amazing as well. So even though he's definitely a best writer when he's focused on one thing, as a showrunner, he's still so amazing. So even if he gets more than one episode, I'd be so happy.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, at the end of the day, so Russell showrun 4 seasons, and then Steven Moffat was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he did considerably more. 6 full series and specials and things like that. So I think he's spoken before about the fact that he may have burnt out on the show, and I know that he did want to leave originally earlier than he actually left. He didn't want to stay on to do series 10. He was going to depart with series 9, but they persuaded him to stay on, and I could imagine. I don't think that shows actually. I think that series 10 is quite fresh. I think it's got a certain freshness about it, but probably to stay any longer would have been pushing it. Earlier this year, at Easter, Steven Moffat was recognised by the Doctor Who Appreciation Society. Did you see this news, Max?
No, I didn't know.
He was given an award in the presence of hundreds of fans and other Doctor Who luminaries. So he became the second recipient of the Terence Dix Award for Writers. And this was presented at the Capital event that takes place in Heathrow in London. And so it was quite a big deal. So Steven got presented with this trophy. This is a golden master crafted by Mooncrest Models, and it had been presented. So they had one presented to Gary Russell. Gary Russell was the first recipient of this in 2022, and so this year Steven Moffat won it. He was presented with it, and I think he was presented with it by Gary Russell too. So there was a kind of handover there on stage. There we are, and Steven Moffat looking quite modest, I think, as Gary sings his praises there. So these are nice things and nice moments. And I suppose, as I say, I get the impression that Steven Moffat got out of Doctor Who just in time before he had a serious burnout. So he does look very, very happy, and happy to be associated with it.
Well, the thing is, you said he was feeling burnt out at the end of Series 9. Even though he was burnt out, I would consider the 2 parts at the end of Series 10, World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls, the greatest Doctor Who story anyone's ever made. I love that story. And when he was burnt out when he made that, I think just goes to show that he's so talented. And I'm so sure he'll be so great in Series 14. He definitely deserves that award, even if the award is just the ugliest thing. But
I think with the master scowling at you from over your hearth for the next however many years there, I mean, maybe he'll put it in, I don't know, maybe he'll put it out of sight in case he gets hexed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of the cornerstones of a good Steven Moffat script? What would you be looking for? Think, yes, that's what we want, Moffat. That's how we know we've got a good one from him. What do you think are the things that you know you're getting A grade for Steven Moffat when he's writing at his very best?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
Isn't it?
I would say Steven Moffat, he loves to go really bonkers with it, especially when he's got a two-parter. For example, The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. That was a crazy story, and he manages to tie it all together in a really clever way. That's what I love about Steven Moffat.
It's very
Also,
high concept, isn't it?
Yeah. And the monsters as well in his stories, they are so amazing. He'd had the Silence, the Weeping Angels. He invented two of the most iconic Doctor Who villains. I would say that as well. What would you say for a good story from Moffat?
I think that just like Russell T Davies, he's got a very particular sense of humour. But whereas I think that Russell's strength is in characters, I think Steven's strength, I think that Russell likes to play with words quite a lot and with and the patterns in how people speak. I think Steven is more interested in story structure. I was gonna try not to use the expression timey-wimey, but it's a great catch-all for it. I think that he plays with narrative shape. And depending on how you said when he's got 2 episodes to play with, he can go bonkers with that and leave us too, because obviously with a week in between parts, he can leave ideas in our heads. Wonder where that's going to connect and where's that. So I think he recognises there's a craft to doing that and leaving us with 7 days of anticipation and to whatever he can tell in those 50 minutes confined to that. I think he's somebody who understands shape and form. And writing to the task at hand more than a lot do. I think he still sees those sorts of things as challenges. So I think that's one thing. At some point in the script, usually quite early on, where we'll think, "Whoa, what?" like that. But I also think that sense of humour as well is something that is very particular to Steven Moffat. There's a certain rhythm to the way that his characters speak. I've upset a couple of people in the past for saying that a lot of the time, I mean, Steven Moffat's got some flack in the past by people who believe that he can't write women very well.
Oh yeah, I've heard this.
I don't believe that. And even some people have said that because of the way that he writes women, that he's a terrible sexist. And I think that's really, really unfair. But having said that, I do agree that some of his characters, and not just the women, can be a little interchangeable.
Yeah.
And because I don't think that his grasp of character is as strong as Russell's, but his dialogue is often so funny, and he has such fun with it that when he's on form, the areas in which perhaps he is lacking are made up for in other ways. And to be fair, I couldn't see the joins in this until after we'd got like 40 odd episodes of his writing. I don't think it's just Steven that needs to freshen up. I think it's viewers that need to freshen up as well. We need a palate cleanser, and I suppose that after a couple of seasons worth of, say, writers that have been recruited from rooms above pubs where they're performing political plays or plays about gender dysphoria and all this kind of thing to 6 or 7 people, as was the case with most of the writers for series 11 and 12. This is a major step back up to back up into the world class, I would think, if it's true. So yes, are we saying then it's a thumbs up from me? I'm pretty certain he's coming back for exactly the same reasons as you described. You're staying with that?
Yep, thumbs up from me as well. I would also say with the character thing, with Steven Moffat being sexist, I mean that is the most ridiculous thing I've heard all day. That is insane. I mean, I think he's wrote some of the best female characters in the whole show. I mean, Amy Pond, her whole thing with being the fairy tale character, being really strong as well. I mean, calling her sexist when she was fucking bitch slapping Rory around is crazy. If anything, it was sexist to men, but no, not at all. I think he's a great guy as well. He's definitely not sexist.
Some people have very, very high standards, high high marks that it's impossible to hit, or they move the goalposts when it suits them. I think that's what it is. And I do honestly believe that familiarity does breed a lot of contempt. And when somebody is in a creative role for a very, very long time, people just get fatigued and they start coming out with silly things like this. I mean, I think that at the moment with Doctor Who, it's wise for there to be an air of mystique around it, so we don't know everything. There was a time when Russell was showing the show originally, where we knew practically every detail of everything that was going to come in the average season. I think that Steven Moffat sort of, I think he came back on that a little and was a bit wiser in his choices. And then you got Chibnall, who didn't tell anybody anything. He didn't even tell us when it was on. So he went from one extreme to the other. But with this, I think they're teasing us just to the right amount. I would imagine that we have to find out something sooner rather than late, though, don't we?
Have you seen those glitches on the BBC?
I have. Yeah, well, there's not a lot to them, but I've seen them.
Well, him giving us announcements every now and again is keeping us going and having us something to talk about, which is always fun. And some of the announcements have been so exciting. They're amazing. And the two-heart emoji thing as well. That's
you're
always
getting proper swept up in it then. You really buy into it all. I did too.
Yeah. Well, it was Christmas, wasn't it, when the first trailer came, and I sat there in the living room all day waiting for the trailer. My mum looked disappointed in me, but I was excited. I was really happy, and I love it. I love the announcements.
Or the hype is part of the fun. Again, hype is something that winds up some people, but I think if you've got it in check and you accept it for what it is, that's fine too. So the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who coming in 6 months' time now. We're closing in on the main event. We know we're getting 3 episodes. We're not quite sure when, in how quickly they're going to drop out. We've got no idea yet, but it's all going to come in due course, and we'll be here talking about it. Of course we will, on the podcasts and the live streams. Don't forget to check us out. So the podcast up on all the podcatchers, multiple episodes of reviews, previews, geek outs, and deep dives there with all our familiar voices and faces, and lots of surprise guests too. It's up on the Fandom Podcast Network's master feed too there. You can get it in your ears with all the other shows in the mix, and lots of videos coming too on Type 40 live every week at Thursday from 8 p.m. If you want to get in touch with us, let us know what you think of all this. Drop a comment in the comment section. Do you think that Steven Moffat is a shoo-in for Series 14, just like the pair of us do? Or have you other ideas? Or is this not great news? You're not thrilled about this? Know what Missy would have to say about this. But yeah, let us know. Get in touch with us through our social media too, Instagram and Twitter at Type 40 Doctor Who. Or you can come and join us in the Type 40 Facebook group and have a natter there. Come and chat to us about it, and you see what other people have got to say too. Should we take a look at a pretty picture before we go, Max?
Let's
have a look at this. Where do you stand on fan art? What kind of stuff do you like, the traditional or the digital stuff?
I like both. I think fan art's really cool. Yeah.
Would you? I think you're going to love this. This is your mate. This is the guy you nearly had lunch with him, didn't you, when you invaded the set? This is Shooter Gatwa and Miller Gibson there. This is a promo poster from Rafe Wallbank. And he's done some great digital work there. We've got some Daleks in the mix, and there's the TARDIS, the proper TARDIS. I can't quite work out what's in the background. Looks like a couple of skyscrapers and comets and things. But it's quite evocative, this, isn't it? Rafe does a lot of work for Big Finish now on their covers, and he's got the Disney Plus logo and all that. So does this stir you further for Series 14?
Oh, that makes me excited. That is amazing.
It's a good one, isn't it? And it's changed the colour of the 15th Doctor's jumper there, because isn't it orange? And he's given us a purple variant of the same costume, which is bold.
I don't know about the purple, but the rest of it, I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, we like the digital stuff as well. You can find Rafe on Twitter and Instagram there. He's got a digital portfolio. And you're looking back to the Steven Moffat stuff too. We've got this one. This is from Sam Shaw. A lovely little picture there of the 11th Doctor. And he's eating, if you look close, if you look on the desk there, it's fish fingers and custard that he's set on a table for 2. So I don't know who's expecting, because there's no second chair. Oh no, the second chair's been squashed by the TARDIS. That's what's happened there. Very nice. Sam Shaw's got an account up on Instagram as well. Lots of quirky fan art in the. What style would you call that? It's kind of like the Flintstones Hanna-Barbera style, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. So, Max, this is your first time chatting to us here on Type 40 Extra, but you are on YouTube yourself, aren't you? Where can people hear more of you? And what do you make videos about?
My name is Shush Bitchards. I make worse video than these. This the best channel on YouTube. Mine's the second best. So come check them out. I do ranking videos and just waffle on for a bit. So that's my channel.
Ranking and waffling on for a bit. If that's a great recommendation. All the links to Max's content will be in the description of this video too. Do you use Twitter or Instagram or anything like that where people can track you down and pester you about?
I'm on Twitter, but oh god, that's Twitter's a nightmare over there. I don't know what you see on there, but Jesus Christ, the complaining all day. Oh.
The trick, Max, is to mute certain words. You'd be amazed how easy your life is if you go through there and just mute a few words.
Yeah, I might have to.
I think that wraps it up for this one. So we want to know what you think of it all. What's the answer to the question? Is it a done deal? Is Steven Moffat back for series 14? Are we going to get more Moffat scripts based on that bit of dialogue that we got from him earlier on? And if he is coming back, how many episodes do you think he'll contribute? And how excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 or not? Actually, it should be on a scale of 1 to 12, a regeneration cycle. That's probably slightly better, isn't it? Yeah, that's a bit more apt. Okay, that's it for this time. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Is Steven Moffat coming back to write for Doctor Who? Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next here and when we're doing it. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40. That's it for this time. Catch you all again soon. Say goodbye, Max.
Goodbye.